Imagine you're a wife living with your husband's family. It's early in the morning and you just woke up. Your hair is messy and you're still sleepy, but all you want is a nice cup of juice or milk. As you walk into the kitchen, your mother-in-law is already there, wide awake and dressed, and she gives you a look like, "Why are you up so late?" You feel like you've done something wrong, even though it's barely morning. Living with your husband's family might sound like a good idea at first. After all, it could mean saving money and being around more family. But after a while, it can start to feel like you're on a game show where you're trying to do everything right, but no matter what, you can't win. Your every move is being watched, and suddenly it's like your whole life is on display for everyone to see. One of the hardest things about living with in-laws is that you don't have much privacy anymore. All those little things you and your husband used to do together, like watching a show in your pajamas or having a quiet chat, become something everyone knows about. If you and your husband have a small argument, it's not just between the two of you anymore. Your father-in-law might walk in and say something like, "Back in my day, we didn't argue. We just did what needed to be done." And now, instead of working through things with your husband, you're dealing with extra opinions. Another thing to think about is how different families do things around the house. Take the kitchen, for example. You might have your own way of cooking and preparing meals, but when you live with your husband's family, that space isn't really yours anymore. Your mother-in-law might have her own rules about what's healthy or how to cook. You could be adding some butter or garlic to a dish, and she might say, "Are you sure you want to use that? That's not very good for you." Suddenly, the food you love making doesn't feel like it's yours anymore. And it's not just the kitchen. Every part of the house has its own set of rules. Rules you didn't even know existed. You might think you're helping by folding laundry or cleaning up, but your mother-in-law might come along and tell you, "That's not how we fold towels here." Now something as simple as doing chores becomes tricky because you're trying to do it the way they like, not how you're used to. Let's talk about advice. You might love your husband's family and appreciate their help, but when you live with them, advice comes at you all the time, even when you don't ask for it. You might be taking care of your kids or deciding how to spend your money, and suddenly your in-laws are telling you how they used to do it. You didn't ask for their advice, but now you're feeling pressure to do things their way. As a wife, this can be hard, but husbands need to pay attention too. If you're the husband in this situation, it's important to think about how your wife might feel. She's living with your family, in their house, with their rules. She might feel like she doesn't have space to relax or be herself because she's always trying to fit in. And if you don't notice how tough it is for her, she might start feeling like you're not on her side. When you live with your husband's family, it's not just about helping with chores or following rules. It can start to feel like everything you do is being watched and your decisions aren't just yours anymore. Even small things, like how you spend your weekends or what you want to buy for the house, can turn into big discussions with everyone in the family. Your relationship with your husband can get lost in all the noise, because now there are so many other people involved in your choices. And then there's the problem of having time alone with your husband. It's hard to be romantic, or even just have a quiet moment together when his family is always around. You might lock the door to your room, but that doesn't mean someone won't knock, asking if you need anything. Suddenly, your special time with your husband feels like it has to be scheduled around everyone else, and that's not how it should be. For husbands, this is where things get tricky. If you're the one living with your parents, it might not seem so bad to you. After all, it's your family, and you're used to their way of doing things. But for your wife, it's different. She's the one trying to fit into a new home, with people who aren't her family. If you don't support her or stand by her, she might start feeling alone in a house full of people. Over time, this can lead to frustration and hurt feelings, and it's important to make sure she knows you're on her side. Living with your husband's family can also put a lot of pressure on your relationship. What started out as a way to be close to family can turn into too much togetherness. It can feel like there's no space for you and your husband to just be a couple. Instead of growing closer, you might find yourselves drifting apart. because there's always someone else around. In the end, while it might seem like a good idea to live with your husband's family at first, it's important to think about what it means for your marriage. You can still have a good relationship with his family, visit for dinners, and share holidays together. But having your own space, your own home, where you and your husband can make decisions together and enjoy each other's company, is something really special. That way, you can keep the love and connection without all the stress of living under one roof with too many opinions. So, before you move in with your husband's family, think about the bigger picture. Sometimes, a little distance helps keep the relationship strong, both with your spouse and with your in-laws. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more fascinating insights into Islamic history and lifestyle.